Every time I try to start a live stream, this stuff happens. Okay. And we should be live with Dragon Ball Xenoverse. Hopefully. I think everything should be working okay. Let me just check one thing before we proceed. Try this again. Alright, for some reason, can't seem to mute it with my PC. Alright, so anyway, I believe we're live. Just having a hard time telling because I don't have anyone else in the stream. And the fact that my computer, the laptop I'm watching it from, is being a bit strange. Okay. Alright, anyway. I'm gonna get to the actual gameplay now. So basically, since the last time you've seen me play, I have leveled up quite a bit. I'm now level 60. I've actually beaten the main story of the game. So I've come quite a long way. And I'm still trying to complete a bunch of side quests and collect armor and stuff like that. So that's basically what I'm gonna be streaming.
Come at me with all you've got.
I don't know if anybody's interested in that, but we'll see.
Run away while you still can, loser.
Okay, Cell. I don't know why Cell and Goku are on a team in this this part of the stream, but I said stream, but I meant to say quest. It's actually because I'm thinking about the damn live stream and worrying about whether or not it's running well. I'm actually watching, like, my stream, monitoring it from my laptop while playing on my PC. Oh, hey. Yeah, if you want to call in, I've got Skype on, so that's fine.
Not bad. I'm gonna keep an eye on you. You look like you need help.
Oh man. Oh, good thing I was able to jump behind him.
It's a power that I got from everyone. Should be flawless.
So Goku managed to take out my team. I swear, the AI is absolutely useless.
Not bad. I'm not going to let you win this. That was surprising. Pretty good.
Let's take this guy out of here. Come on. Okay, I have no idea why my destructor just decided. Alright, no problem. There we go. So for once, the victory rush actually connected. I I really need to finish this battle with a super move so I have a chance of getting a Z ranking. Come on. Charge up, charge up. Alright, this should be the end. Yeah, eat that, Goku. Oh. Probably should have thought
End this fight right now.
of reviving my buddies. Because now I'm gonna get screwed.
Fooling around now, my friend. It's time to end this little scrap.
Stop.
Oh, man.
No sense in fighting anymore.
Come on, revive him, revive him. Wow. No sense. I'm so confused as to what's going on here because apparently Gohan and Cell are talking to each other and I'm gonna get murdered. Come on! Give me 2 seconds to heal, guys. Come on. There we go. And naturally, my partners are worthless. Come on, Goku, revive Beerus. There we go. I don't know how other people do it, but I almost always get screwed over when it comes to like more than one character ganging up on me. Okay, Gohan's out of here. Now, if only I could beat Cell. Sorry, I'm kind of in concentration mode here. Probably definitely gonna have to go shopping and refill my healing items. Ultimate finish, nice.
My perfect form should be invincible. I can't stand losing like this.
That's a shock.
They gave me an S
I didn't
rank.
think you'd be this
Why didn't
good.
I get Z? No more games. Okay, well, I did gain a level. So let me see how I should separate my attributes. I kind of went low on the strike supers. Maybe I should continue raising that, but it seems like I let it fall so far behind now that it's difficult to keep it up. What equipment did I get? No more games. What does it do? Great increase to ultimate skill. Perfect Kamehameha is gained. So that's kind of cool, I guess. I don't really see myself equipping it, but it's pretty neat. Activates when near death. Equipping the soul increases Android 18 related skill powers, so you have to have a specific skill set. Not too keen on that, to be honest. Maybe I can connect to an online battle, I don't know. If I can, I should be able to do something a little bit more interesting than what I've been doing, simply because... Hello?
Hello?
Oh, alright, it's working, that's good. I set Skype to pick up on it automatically, so...
Okay, yeah, that was pretty quick.
That was helpful. I'm trying to connect to an online battle, just to see if I can, rather than rely on artificial intelligence partners that are useless, I can actually accomplish something.
That would be useful. I like that your character looks like a Chicago Bulls version of the hero from Dragon Quest VIII.
Oh, that's where that outfit looked familiar from. I was trying to think of why it looked so familiar. That's probably what it is. I think there's also that character in the original Dragon Ball filler episodes, the one that guards like the the flames in the mountain at the very end of the series?
Yeah, I don't remember what he looks like, but I remember those episodes.
I don't know how lagged YouTube is gonna be. I'm monitoring on my laptop just so I can see the chat, and for me it's pretty lagged. I mean the video is clear, but it's behind what I'm actually doing.
Yeah, it's pretty lagged for me. Other than that, and it looks like the video's kind of off.
Oh, it's kind of off center, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know why. It's because I don't have it in windowed mode. Or I do have it in windowed mode, and I don't have it full screen. I should probably try to fix it on OBS real quick. Alright, let's... As soon as this enemy comes in, I'll try to fix it, just so there's no complaints. Oh, I can't pause because I'm in an online battle. That makes sense. Okay, so after this fight, I will attempt that.
I just love how lazy they didn't even bother to change the pronouns if you use a female character.
Oh, the funny thing about that is I noticed that in some places they do say she, and then in others it's he, no matter what you do. So, I don't know, it is kind of weird. Either they were lazy and, didn't go all the way, or there's just programming errors, or I don't know what. It's really weird. There was a bunch of typos, too, which supposedly they released a patch to fix.
I've got this.
I was gonna say, maybe they just have a patch where they finally fix the pronoun issues, but sounds like it was just bad editing altogether.
Yeah, the pronoun patch sounds like something you'd find on Tumblr.
Yeah, or Node.js if you're a JavaScript engineer. That's a thing, apparently.
Well, how would they refer to Namekians? I mean, technically, they don't even have a gender.
Yeah, but then they'd actually have to watch the show to be able to think about that issue. And
That's true.
of course, the typical attitude is just to complain about something, and then when they implement the change you want, don't buy player support in any way other than to tweet about it online.
Well, we all know how much tweeting accomplishes.
Yeah.
Who is coming
This
in
just
now?
gives me a chance to look at some of the other Steam games.
Oh, are you trying to watch on Steam?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll get to that request as soon as this battle... Actually, I could probably do it just because he's got Perfect Cell helping him out. Doesn't need my help. Okay, let me work with this real quick.
Do
Steam.
you know if there are really any real benefits for like being a Saiyan or something? Because from what I read, basically either your only other upgrades are basically Kaioken, and that's it, unless you're a Saiyan, and then you have like the Super Saiyan abilities.
Okay, I think I got it to work. Now this guy's showing up too. He could pretty much kill him off with like 3 punches. I don't even know why they bother. Okay. Yeah, I kind of was goofing around on that one because I put the controller down while I was in the middle of an online battle, so I admit some fault there. Every time.
So were you able to see if there are any benefits between like
the races?
species or class?
Well,
Yeah.
they claim that there are when you are selecting your character at the beginning. I don't know if you remember that, but I didn't really look into it much more than that.
Because I looked at the Dragon Ball Wikia, and it made it look like they're the only option you really have, or you don't really get any good upgrades for choosing another class. It's either you be a Saiyan and get the Super Saiyan upgrades, or you don't, and all you get is Kaioken.
Mm-hmm. That's weird. I mean, that doesn't sound too special. I did, what was I saying? Oh, I actually, I just saw your Skype message. I actually just switched over to YouTube just because, like, I had a couple of Twitch viewers, but they were kind of flaky. They just, like, popped in. I tried to interact with them. They didn't, respond at all. So I was just like, I'll take it over to YouTube, where at least I know I have, like, a subscriber base that talks to me.
Yeah, if they haven't been alienated with whatever people are saying these days.
Okay, so I did get the picture fixed at the very least. Did you get the watch request, or did that
Yeah,
work?
I got it.
Oh.
I'm watching it right now.
Oh, all
I
right.
sent you another one.
Oh, okay. That was my fault because the thing popped up on the corner of the screen again for me, and I didn't know if it actually gave it to you or not. All right, so now I'm back to playing actually. Okay, so something that is bugging me about this game is just that for the clothing, I guess some of the outfits are not available in the store ever, so you have to do quests for them. Problem with that is you don't always get them from the quests. So there's times where you have to repeat things a lot. And then there's this problem where, I mean, I guess it's not necessarily a problem. Like, you still get XP when you lose, just a portion of it. But if you get equipment, you don't collect it unless you complete the quest. Which can be bothersome considering that it's like a random drop.
That seems a bit I would say unnecessary, but I guess to me it feels like laziness instead. Well, rather than trying to keep whatever we have, let's just reset everything so we don't have to worry about it.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully, I don't know, maybe they'll add some fixes or something. I feel like I might have just got kicked off the game right now. Returning to title screen because you lost network connection. We're still having some server issues, I guess.
It's kind of why I wish you could do. As much as I'm gonna hate saying this, I wish that you could do like you can on Beyond, where you host your own server, and then
Oh, okay.
you can. That way you can kind of control it better. Like, yeah, I guess if you wanted, if they wanted, they could still have it where you can play through their server, so that you can play with anybody. But like, if you wanted the equivalent of a LAN party without the LAN part,
Mm-hmm.
you have like some kind of feature where you can host it on your own box, basically, and then you can have a team of people that are always playing with you. Because the question I would ask is, where their servers at, what are they doing, what's the latency is the big issue. So how far away is the server from wherever you're at?
Right. Well, supposedly, I read that they're doing an update for, like, the consoles for the servers and whatnot, and they're still planning to do Steam. So I don't know if they did all the fixes at the same time, or if Steam is still to come. I'm guessing it's still to come since I can't get online right now. But I have been able to get online a couple of times, and it's a lot more fun when you can play with random people. Just because, like I said, when you do the more difficult quests, I feel like the AI is useless. They get destroyed instantly, and then you're left fighting like 5 guys by yourself. And yeah, you have the option to revive your teammates, but you have to be able to touch them for certain amount of time before they come back to life, and 5 enemies are not going to let you do that.
There's some game I can't remember the name of where I feel like the AI is equally useless, if not more useless, because they're always dying. I think I know what it is. Legend of Mana. If you ever get like pets or somebody to
Oh,
help you
okay,
out,
yeah. It's been so long since I played that, but now that you brought it up,
speaking of which, remember I was telling you last week about the Mouse Utopia experiment?
yeah.
Well, what he what he was basically saying is that, or because he asked me if I heard about it or knew what it is. It was basically just an experiment to see what happens, a population experiment. What happens when you have a bunch of rats who are, from what I remember, if they're all in an environment where they don't have any predators or they don't have any real outside threats, how do they adapt to the fact that there's essentially overpopulation? And I think it's called like a behavior or population sink.
Right.
They basically go into, I mean, if you've taken any high school biology class or differential equations, they always talk about, well, there's always if the population is too big, there's a carrying capacity, and so it's always going to drop back down to the carrying capacity. At some point, it's going to, based on how differential equations works, it's going to have to go down. Well, it's going to go to a zenith. It's going to go to a maximum, and then it's going to go to a minimum. Trying to balance itself out. And so that was essentially the experiment, seeing, well, what happens when you have a bunch of people, or a bunch of one species that has no actual threats to survival, and essentially they can't. It's not a sustainable life for them. But anyway, the reason I brought that up is because one of the experimenters, or one of the researchers, was at a place called Nim, and
Uh-huh.
that's where the secret of Nim, that's where Nim comes from in that storyline.
Oh, really?
And so I remember back in the day when I thought I wanted to do an irate gamer parody, that was always going to be my joke, is that I was going to talk about Secret of Mana, but instead reference a bunch of characters in Secret of Nim.
That could work. That'd be
They'll
pretty
be like,
funny.
well, where are the original characters from the movie? Where's the hero? And where's Nicodemus and Mrs. Brigsby?
He does have a knack for getting the information completely wrong. What was it that Super Mario World was for, like Nintendo or something like that?
Yeah, it was an NES game,
Okay.
and Donkey Kong Country was as well.
Oh, wow. That's some impressive graphics. Alright, I think I went the wrong way.
Well, it only had half level in Donkey Kong Country, so.
Once again, I've lost my way. Where the hell is that other portal? There it is. Okay, who's next? That figures.
I have to admit, you're doing a wonderful job.
So this is the newer, I don't know, if you remember when the dub finally came back on Cartoon Network back in the day, the first Frieza voice sounded very feminine and obnoxious. I guess because it was an old lady. Or at least middle-aged woman. But this is Linda Young, I think it was.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay, and this is the newer guy. I don't know who it is. I don't know the name. What do you think about this guy's voice?
Is he speaking right now? Because the broadcast thing cut off on me, or it says it ended.
Oh, that's not good. I'm just fighting Frieza. I don't know. I see it on YouTube at least. I'm not sure why it would cut off on Steam.
I can't even hear her talk on that one. I can try to see if I can just connect again because something dumb happened to my Steam when I logged in. It disconnected me
Oh, okay.
for doing nothing.
That figures.
So
Basically, I feel like they tried to go for sounding like an English version of the original Japanese voice.
that's what I figured. It probably was like that. It wouldn't surprise me actually. I was listening to something else yesterday, or yeah, it was yesterday, and it was in Portuguese, and that's given who they were talking about, I thought it was pretty surprising that it was supposed to be this big brooding male, and instead he sounds more like Frieza does.
Uh-huh. This is weird because it says I have the first 3 categories of parallel questing clear, and that basically means I completed all of them, but then I go into the 4th one and I've played through all of them, but it's not giving me a clear message. Interesting. I don't know what else I should do. I don't know if that means they want a higher score out of me. Which
It's
if
more discrimination.
I might be able to connect to another multiplayer room. Seems like it's gonna work. Here we go.
I sent a request to see if it'll
Okay.
say something about broadcasting again.
Let me lost connect. Oh, I see. Let's see. All right, there we go. That it should have sent now.
Yep.
All right. And of course, okay. Well, apparently that's not gonna work. I have
It's
let me
loaded up for me.
check my items here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 Dragon Balls, and they told me a way to easily get the Dragon Balls was to do Quest 15, and you beat Frieza really quickly. Because if you clear it under 3 minutes, a Time Patroller shows up, and if you fight the Time Patroller, you get a Dragon Ball. I've been clearing it in like 40 seconds to a minute, and only sometimes the Time Patroller will show up. So it's been rather difficult to collect the items.
They're all lies.
Yeah, I mean, the way that the mission guidelines make it sound like is that if you beat it in under 3 minutes every time, that a Time Patroller will show up. But apparently it's random.
I feel like this is like when Final Fantasy IV came out on the DS, and there was almost no information about the game at all when it came out.
Oh, really? Yeah, see,
Yeah,
it's
like
cleared.
since I bought the Japanese version, you know, I would go and try to search Japanese sites, and nobody had anything because since I had been playing through it kind of quickly, when I got to the point, I guess the level 60, you know, where in the Super Nintendo and the older versions, that normally means you have to be careful about leveling up because you want to make sure that you can get the most out of your stats. I got to that point, and I was curious to see what was going on because it wasn't, or what happened in the original versions wasn't happening obviously in the DS version, and there was
Right.
no explanation that they had changed that gameplay functionality at all. And it wasn't until maybe a month or two later, because it came out in December, and I think it wasn't until January or February where I actually finally got the information I was looking for. There's somebody finally had made a website where they had basically said what the level ups were like for that game. But until then, you got a bunch of people saying one thing, and then that never happened.
Yeah, this was some random YouTube video, and they said it would take like an hour to get all 7, but that didn't happen. I mean, I guess it worked for them, but apparently it's not trustworthy and reliable.
Yeah, that's kind of what gets frustrating is that it's the it works on my PC treatment for video games. That's a I don't know if I want to call it a joke, but a lot of times when as a programmer, if you're making something and you get to the point where you're trying to test it out, somebody says, "Well, it doesn't work when I try to go to it," and then the answer is always for the developer is it all works on my machine.
Yeah.
That's assuming they tested it themselves when they before they let somebody else test it. Which, apparently, some people don't do that.
Test it before they release it.
Yeah, as surprising as that would be. But yeah, I forgot to say, but I finally was able to hear the Frieza voice, and yeah, they made it sound more like like an English or like the Japanese voice, but with an American accent.
Yeah. I guess it works. I mean, it's probably about as close as it could get.
I want to say one of the Spanish dubs did that too, but they did that right out of the gate, and it was actually kind of weird how close they sounded to the original Japanese voices. It was actually kind of annoying because around here we never got to have international channels, so I couldn't watch the Japanese dub. So the closest thing I could get to it was one of the Spanish language channels would have
It was like Telemundo or something.
yeah, they would have the Spanish dub, and it would come at all random times of the day. So I remember one summer it would always come on during the morning right before I had Japanese classes, and then I think when I was during the school year, I think it came on around 3 or 4, and then sometimes it didn't, sometimes it did, and then I think when I was in high school, I think I was able to catch it again one more time, but that was like the only way that I could see them uncut without just watching clips until.
Oh yeah, I did get the international channel at one point, but it was really late, and they were running the Boo Saga at the time.
Yeah, that was kind of the other problem was that if it was when I was in 8th grade, that was still back in the day when the Funimation or the Fort Worth dub hadn't come out yet. So all we had so we had basically been seeing the Vegeta and that part of the Frieza saga to death because that was all the Ocean dub had or that's all we had of the Ocean dub at the time. And so that was all that they were showing on Telemundo, and plus, in the Ocean or on the Sabin dub, they cut out a lot of the filler episodes, so they got straight to the point. Whereas with the Telemundo or the Spanish dub, they didn't cut anything out, so it would take even longer to get to the part that I hadn't seen before because they had been taking all day, or they didn't cut out the filler episodes. So I mean, it was at least interesting to see what they cut out, but if the goal was to try to see what happens with Frieza and all that, yeah, we didn't even get all that because like I said, they always kept changing the scheduling or the lineup. They were consistent for a few months in having it in the morning, and then all of a sudden they moved it arbitrarily to the afternoon, and half the time it wouldn't even come on because they wanted to show some stupid talk show or something like that. And then only when the talk show or the sports event wasn't on would they show it.
Oh hey, Riskman is in the room. How's it going, man? Yeah, I used to watch the international channel version, even though I had no understanding of Japanese, just because they were so much further ahead in the series that it was cool to see what was going on. Because at that point, it was like, oh my god, is Funimation ever going to get there?
Yeah, and then I'll say that was the only good thing is that summer that I actually took the Japanese class. That was right before 8th grade, so literally within the first few weeks of the beginning of 8th grade for me, they finally had the rest of the episodes. And at that point, I mean, I knew they were going to do it, but it had just been so long, and I'd just been so used to seeing them on repeat over and over, where sometimes you're like, I don't know what's going on.
Where am I supposed to go? Oh, down there.
Goofing off at work, that sounds completely opposite of anything I would ever do.
That's hilarious.
Speaking of which, I'm actually very impressed about how these new tech or startup-like companies like YouTube make such a big deal about their quote-unquote engineering talent and the hard and difficult problems they have to solve, and how they have to have the cream of the crop and all that to work at their company. They're not going to just take any programmer off the street, and yet we're still having these latency issues where somebody puts something in the chat and you're not getting it until 5 minutes later.
Yeah. That's quality work right there. Another thing I would have to say, at least when we're talking about YouTube and Google, is why is it that every update to YouTube is it makes it more awful than it used to be, rather than an improvement?
And that's the thing, they go out of their way to really just make this seem asinine as possible. And so they, like when they, it used to be, back when YouTube was 10 years ago when it just came out, it had a streamlined interface, it was easy to use, it was as coherent as it could ever be.
Hey, we got Ryan in here from
it's turning into a DWO reunion.
Pretty much. Hey man, what's going on? Oh, Gohan is just destroying everybody, and of course my incompetent artificial intelligence partners are just laying there. Meanwhile, I took a Kamehameha to the face. Okay, Super Boo's dead, so I lost. Well, that one wasn't my fault.
No, not interested.
Wow. Alright. This mission, if I'm not mistaken, is you have to help Super Boo fight the Z Fighters, and then the goal of it is basically to beat Vegito. But one of the, oh man, what's the word I'm looking for? One of the things you have to accomplish is keep Super Boo alive, so...
In the series, that was a very easy task, and somehow I imagine, given that this is a game, it's probably not going to be as simple as it was.
I've actually beaten that quest before, that's the funny thing, but I'm pretty sure I beat it in online play, and apparently that doesn't count when you're playing single player. Yeah, Potara Warrior, it's not completed, but I've definitely beaten that. I kind of wish it did count towards your single player mode, because you have a definite advantage when you're playing online with people.
This is actually reminding me of a game that I finally mustered up the energy to actually even attempt to play, called Children of Mana, and it feels like that's the same thing, because it told me that when I started the game. It's like, oh well, you can either fight the boss by yourself, or you can go and try to get some multiplayer help, and that'll help you, but it might change some things in the game.
YouTube videos at work, that is awesome. I am down with the insubordination.
I've written a chapter of my book before. That was about as far as I went.
Yeah, I've written blog posts at work.
No, not. I've written an IF update too. I've written a few.
this might
What's
be
that?
a good time to plug the site, considering you started updating again. But this Majin Chaos mission, I am not looking forward to doing because you have to beat 30 miniature Majin Boos, and I don't know if they attack you all at once. Not 30 at a time, obviously, but I think they can have up to 4. So that's gonna be rough.
Not 30 at a time, you say? Well, when they inevitably make the Dynasty Warriors style Dragon Ball Z fighting game, you will have to fight 30 at a time.
Oh geez, I wish they would do something other than just like slap skins over an already, created engine. I really want to see a Dragon Ball Z game that's kind of like the Legacy of Goku series, except more modernized, like this.
Well, the funny thing about that, and I didn't even notice this, I figured it was because Bandai, or now Bandai Namco, has made all of the Dragon Ball Z games up until that point. So I assumed when those games came out that that's what it was. But I think after, or when you started that LP, I think it was THQ who. Well, I'm pretty sure they were the publisher, but I think they got a Western developer to do it.
Uh huh.
And to me that's interesting. I mean, there was a time when Western developers, at least for console and portable games,
Did
they were nowhere near as quality as Japanese developers, and now you kind of see this trend where it seems like they were putting more effort for these kind of middle or lower budget games.
did
Whereas
they do
Bandai,
a? I wasn't aware that they did a One Piece Warriors type game. I was thinking of the recent Legend of Zelda one, and then I guess Dragon Quest Heroes is pretty much that, right?
yeah, that's all Dragon Quest Heroes is.
It's still I mean, as much as cop out as that kind of is, I'm still kind of interested in it, just
Well, I mean,
because
for a series like Dragon Quest, I mean that really is something different
that's true.
from a gameplay standpoint. Yeah, apparently the developer for the Legacy of Goku was it's called Webfoot Technologies,
Yep, I
and
remember
it's a
that.
Western company, and
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they did all the sprite work and portraits, from scratch. So as far as that goes, they did a pretty good job considering it was a Western company that I wouldn't really consider to be adept at, creating anime characters.
yeah, I was actually pretty surprised. I mean, I don't know, that's where I kind of feel that after that's kind of where things have fallen apart now in terms of games, and that nobody makes something like that anymore. I can't remember where I read it or where somebody said it, but somebody was basically saying that um, you know all the money is in AAA, and there's never going to be anything. I think it was one of your videos actually, where somebody said it basically said nobody's going to create a an actual interesting or intriguing cerebral game, because people are only going to it's entertainment, so they're only going to make what people are willing to buy,
Right.
and that's it. And to me, that I didn't agree with that for a couple of reasons. One, from a AAA standpoint, that's absolutely true. AAA is a high budget development model that is entirely focused on, hey, let's rehash the same idea
Because they
and
know that
make
it
a lot.
yeah, they know that it's going to give them the bucks.
But back in the days when the Final Fantasy series wasn't popular, and the Saga series is, games like the series like the Saga series, uh, and for like PC games, even like the Deus Ex games, and there's basically there's this layer of games that weren't they didn't have uh, you know a huge amount of budget, but they weren't exactly independent. Like I I guess you could say like Earthworm Jim is a good example, where it wasn't an indie game in the truest sense, and it wasn't AAA,
Mm.
They did get some money to make an interesting game, and because of that, they made it quirky. And I think a lot of games, for as much as I want to rag on the Saga series for just being absolutely terrible at this point, it reflects a good example of what what some people would call like a middle market title. It's never gotten the exorbitant amount of budget that the Final Fantasy series has,
Right.
and it's not an independent game because it's always been a SquareSoft, now Square Enix series. But it gets enough money to where they can actually try something out and try to do something different. And to be honest, I think that's where a lot of the innovation, like anytime somebody goes and say, well, games don't have enough women in them or something, if you look at those middle market titles, you will almost definitely find a wealth of games that
Have
don't fall into that.
representation.
Right.
Things you're looking for.
Right, and they're totally organic. They're not like it is today, where they try to shoehorn or they ham fist in what they consider representation.
No,
It
it's
was
just
something that they included from the ground up.
yeah, it's just people that want to tell genuine stories that don't necessarily fit in with what the AAA is trying to do.
Exactly, and then they'll even tackle some, some maybe even subversive or even intriguing topics that you won't find in a AAA series. I mean, their whole goal is a lot of times to say, in some cases, they'll say, okay, we have this new concept for a game, and we want to try out and see what happens, see if we can turn it into a series. And yeah, somebody's mentioning Call of Duty as an example of a AAA series, but back when Call of Duty was first came out, it wasn't a AAA series in that sense. It didn't have an inordinate amount of money that
Right.
was just given to it. It was its eventual success led to that happening, to where they rehashed Call of Duty sequels every 6 months. Like this is Mega Man X5 and X6, but once upon a time it wasn't even true for that series. It was only because of the proliferation of first-person shooters where that happened.
I actually saw, speaking of Mega Man, I actually saw a game today, a trailer for a game today, that looked more like what Mighty Number 9 should have been than Mighty Number 9. It was called 20XX. And
I've heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
yeah, apparently it's got like roguelike aspects to it, so it's not strictly Mega Man type platformer. It's got randomly generated levels and stuff, but it does look more Mega Man than Mighty Number 9 does.
Mighty Number 9 to me looks like Mega Man X8 with less gameplay.
And the level design is just like it's like the hallway game, like Final Fantasy 13. It's just like plain corridors, which is really surprising considering the budget they took in on that.
And as much as people rag on Final Fantasy for being suffocatingly linear, I mean, we have to look at Final Fantasy VI from, by today's standards, we could probably say that was a AAA game, and in terms of its success, it had AAA type success in Japan anyway. It
Right.
had middle market success in the West, but that was a good example of, that game gave you choices and options. I mean, I remember one of the biggest things that always stood out to me about that game was the scenario event, where you could say, oh well, okay, here's a point where I can choose either any one of these three characters and see what happens with them, and then I can go see what happens with that person. I can do it in any order I want to do it, and there's no penalties for me making a decision on how I want to do it, which I think is why some people complain about linear games today, especially like the on rails Call of Duty games, where if you turn the wrong way, you fail the mission.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, because I didn't start with PC games, but
Too weak.
I did I did play a lot of PC games when I was younger, or enough to be used to the fact that, to me, RPG
Whoa.
RPG implied some kind of choice. like I can make a decision. Like even back in the old days of when I just had DOS and I was playing or making a text-based RPG. Yeah, it wasn't visually impressive at all, but
Yeah.
at least I could make a decision on what I wanted to do. Like back in the Beyond days, I found on a Japanese website this browser-based uh, Dragon Quest game where I think you're playing as a slime, and basically you're just going. It's like a text-based RPG because you're just kind of choosing where you want to go, but there's not really a graphical interface. In fact, the only graphics I remember is when you encounter an enemy,
Oh,
and
okay.
the game had the worst amount of difficulty because like for the first 20 battles I died all the time, and then after a while I was able to finally kill something because they finally gave me some. I mean, you played the original Dragon Warrior. Imagine you step out of Alifgard, and instead of the first monster you're fighting being a slime, the first
The
monster you
hell?
fight is the dragon or the final boss.
Right.
That's what it was like. And so it was very rare
Oh
for me to
man.
fight like another slime and beat it. And once I finally was able to do that and get stronger, it turned into a more interesting game. But it gave you choices on what to do, and even even if a game is linear, a lot of times if it gives you a certain choice, just to kind of break the monotony, and instead of just telling you, well, yeah, it's gonna be have it's this game's gonna have a beginning, middle, and end, and you're more or less gonna go on a line. Instead of just making it a series of hallways, they try to at least give you an overworld. Because
Right.
if I
Oh,
remember,
I really miss the overworlds in like Final Fantasy now. I don't like when they make it, the places just kind of connect to each other. Um, I didn't play much of it, but Xenoblade Chronicles seemed like it had a really massive overworld.
that one, I don't remember. I can't remember. I do remember the first time I encountered the no overworld was actually Final Fantasy X,
Oh,
because
yep.
I kept wondering when am I going to get out of the town and start just walking around, until I realized that there was no overworld to walk around in.
Hmm.
And to me it was like they because at the end they still did the trope that they did back in those days, where okay, now that you have the airship you can choose wherever you want to go, but it felt so weird choosing a point on a map instead of actually going to fly to a place.
Always, sometimes monsters. What is that? Because I've heard of the name, but I'm not really aware of what it is. I feel like I heard them talking about that on the co-optional podcast or something recently. Oh man, I don't know if I'm gonna win this because these guys get back up. Or at least one of them. This is another one of those quests that I beat online, but doesn't count here.
I'm actually trying to think of a game that is really linear but still gives you choices. It's not recent in that it came out within the last 2 or 3 years. Well, it did here on Steam, but technically the game came out in 9 years ago, and that's Ys Origin. And
Oh,
in
okay.
fact, in that game, you can either choose to play as a female or a male. So, and contrary to what people might think, if you play as the female, she's more of a brutish warrior type. She's a small little kid, but she actually fights with hammers and axes. Whereas the male character you choose, who's a douche by the way, he's actually the magician of the game. But
That
it still
seems like
gives
it.
you, even though the goal is still the same place. In fact, you could consider it a dungeon crawler because you are only going in the tower that you go to in the first game, and that's the whole game. You don't go anywhere else but that. Even though the option or the goal is to go to the top floor and beat the final boss, the paths that they get there, the experience they have differs based on the character. So it's replay value and choice. So if you say, well, I want to pick the mage guy because I don't like mages, so I want to get him out of the way. There's an experience. There are experiences in his level that you won't get in.
The
The
other
girl's
one.
name is Unica. Yeah, you'll do something in Unica's quest that you won't get in Hugo's and vice versa, and so it adds a lot more to the storyline, or it gets deeper in the storyline, and it does it without trying to force feed you the story.
I've actually never played Mass Effect. I'm actually probably not as well versed in newer video games as everybody else that I know is. But I mean, this and like Metal Gear, Ground Zeroes, I think those are like the newest games that I have. I mean, I have whatchamacallit. I have Bravely Default. I have Rune Factory 4. I got some. I got the new Kirby games. But I guess I'm more selective about what titles I get.
Especially in this day and age, because
Well, I mean,
everything is
games are so
remade.
damn expensive, and then you've got downloadable content to worry about, and that's not always something that I want to get into. I mean, I did it with this, and I don't really regret it, but I would prefer to have, a game that comes to you complete rather than where they have to add in stuff later on. But I guess that's just the way things are now.
Yeah, because the thing when I hear somebody say like, "Oh, games these days are more expensive than they were back then," well, when you factor in inflation, not as much. But the difference I'll say between, oh well, back in 1995 when Final Fantasy 2 and 3 for the Super Nintendo were out, yeah, I might have had to spend $73 at Babbage's, which was a ripoff already. But at least when, like you said, when you bought the game, you got a completed game.
Right.
You didn't go to the store, buy the game, take it home, and then wait, put it in your disc, and then wait for Microsoft or for Capcom or for whoever to tell you, oh yeah, well let's go ahead and give you the finished game because we made some bugs and we didn't
Yeah.
properly play test it, so let's go ahead and give you the patches. And oh, by the way, yeah, we didn't finish this feature in time, so let's go ahead and sell you this feature that's already pressed to the disc, and then
Right.
tell you that it's a new game.
Isn't there a term for when you keep buying Steam games that you're never gonna play?
I'm sure I've seen it on
I've heard it
GameFAQs,
somewhere. Yeah.
but yeah, but reading anything on that site lowers my intelligence. That's like a permanent status effect of minus 10 intelligence points, and even though that still keeps me way ahead of the curve in terms of game facts intelligence, that's still lower than I'm comfortable with.
The only thing the only thing I've ever used GameFAQs for is the FAQs, but you know, I've never been much for frequenting their boards. But the few times I did go there, I left feeling like I was ripped off.
I want to say back in the mid 90s when the site came out, I want to say that the creator actually lived in Houston. And if that's true, because I'm pretty sure I remember him saying he had to leave Texas and move to California, and I'm almost certain it was Houston that he was leaving from. I think after I read around a little bit, and I was like, well, okay, those places are only in Houston, so I had to be where he was at. But if that's true, the fact that Houston is a part of this equation, I think, really explains everything.
I almost attacked my own team member just now because there's two Gokus. There's the Goku I'm fighting and the Goku on my team, so that was a little stupid.
They they couldn't do a Street Fighter 2 where they
Like a
give
color
them
swap.
color?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, 50 unplayed games. I don't even have 50 Steam games. I have, I don't know, maybe like 13 or something, 12. And I'm pretty sure out of them I've tried almost all of them. I probably have about 5 that I haven't played. But to be fair, 2 of those are RPG Maker games that were thrown in with the VX Ace bundle package, so I got those for free. So I don't feel too bad about not playing them. They do look interesting, I'll give them that. I just haven't had the time to get into it.
I think most of the Steam games I have not really played. My friends actually gave me codes, which that'd be nice if I can get some more codes to get some more games. But back when I had a solid state drive that apparently had a shelf life of 2 years because only it's only been 2 years or 2 years after I bought the thing, the stupid thing just all of a sudden stopped working for whatever reason. It wasn't even like it wasn't a big hard drive anyway, so there wasn't much to put on there. But because there wasn't much to put on there, I didn't download too many games. And the two that I played most often were Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon and the Genesis Classics collection. Because now that I'm looking at my Steam library, most of these games that I have on here are actually games that I have a physical copy of that I just added. Like it says I have Ease Origin on here, but I don't have the Steam version. I have the Japanese version that I patched with the same translation that they use for the Steam version. In fact, there was they didn't hire any localizers for that translation for Steam. All they did so this would be the equivalent of somebody making a ROM patch, which for the record, Final Fantasy Anthology, Final Fantasy V, I'm convinced they did this as well. All they basically did was they found the people that did the ROM, the equivalent of the ROM hack, and pay them to use their translation on the Exceed Steam release.
Oh, weird.
And then they said, okay, that's the translated version, and because they were trying to guilt trip you into saying, oh, well, buy the Steam version. I was like, I'm not about to buy a digital version if I can go and get a physical copy from the developer himself and have them send it to me. And then when I found out, well, their translation was the same translation from the patch that I could download from the internet, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to pay you guys $20, or I'm not going to pay you guys $30 for a game that I can get for the same price from Japan and actually have an actual disc.
Oh, I wonder... Huh. I wonder if I got that gear already. I'll check it out after this battle.
I could have sworn earlier you said you were talking to a robot, like back when I at first got into the stream.
Yeah, I might have. I'll check again. I think I might have been trying to get into an online battle, so that might have been what the robot was in that sense. But yeah, those there's a lot of those weird dating sim things on Steam. The one that I heard about most recently was Honey Pop, which is basically like the dating sim, but it has puzzle game elements.
So it's like Catherine?
Yeah, but it's also... Well, I think the puzzle game is more like Bejeweled or something, but it's a little bit more involved than that. But from what I understand is that rather than being at like one of those serious dating sims, it's sort of a parody because the girls have really out there personalities and not much of a language filter. Okay, well, we'll be here. Yeah, you know what? You're probably right. I'll check the. I'll talk to it as soon as I get out of this battle. I don't even know if I can win this because once again I have to keep the AI alive.
You know, that actually reminds me. I've hated that trope ever since the NES days, where there's like a mission where you have to make sure that the person stays alive.
Yeah, because the thing is, they always do the thing that's going to get them murdered. Like, why don't Frieza just hang back and, leave it to me? But no, he's got to get right in there, fight Kid Buu, the most powerful guy in the whole entire series.
Somehow he gets himself killed. I watched a little bit of an Earthworm Jim playthrough yesterday just to get myself ready for this weekend, and sure, I wanted to also hear the cover. It was a cover playthrough where somebody did like Genesis chip tunes, and they overlaid their music on top of the game music.
Well, perhaps Honey Pop happens to represent real women then.
I don't know. Every time I have these discussions with my wife about feminism and representation, she just ignores me. So
I'm guessing she doesn't think it's much of a problem then.
no, I don't think she thinks it's as problematic as I do. But yeah, there's a part in Earthworm Jim where it's like, oh, you have to. It's a escort mission, and oh, you have to keep the dog alive, and the AI is stupid because all he does is he just moves and he'll go right into a pit, and so you're supposed to hit him so that he'll jump over the pit, and then I think I saw a review where there was a Rocco's Modern Life game for the Super Nintendo, and that's
Uh-huh.
all the game was.
Oh, wow.
It was just Rocco and I don't even remember his dog's name anymore, Spunky, and all you're trying to do is make sure that he didn't do something dumb.
That's interesting. I don't think I would have enjoyed that very much.
I always tell myself if I'm going to make a game, I'm not going to. I'm never going to make that ever part of the gameplay.
No, it just feels like more of a hassle rather than a challenge. I mean, unless they get to the point where, the artificial intelligence is as spot on as an actual player, I don't think that should be a thing. But then, if that's the case, there's probably not going to be much challenge to it anyway, so why even have it? Oh, man.
Yeah, it's not a secret that I'm not the biggest fan of Apple computers. Uh-oh. I just got the door closed on me. I get my toxic masculinity is problematic.
Well, that's really what, where all men should be, locked away in a room, so that they can't hurt anybody with their misogyny.
Right. But then how do you deal with the Lacey Green problem of, well, men should be cooking and cleaning in the kitchen?
That's a good point. Yeah, I noticed that the Super Saiyans tend to overdo it with their super moves. And I realized that was because when they're in Super Saiyan form, they're able to have, like, unlimited ki, right?
Say, you're hiding some incredible power, aren't you?
Actually, so how does that work? Because I figured
Like,
like
what's
the
the
Super Saiyan,
limitation on Super Saiyan?
yeah, and
You
for
know,
Kaioken.
I've yet to use it, so I don't know. I know Kaioken works with your stamina, and your stamina bar drops pretty quickly. I have the times 20, and it goes down really quick. So I'm assuming Super Saiyan uses your stamina as a base for how long you can be in it, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I noticed the friendly Saiyans don't ever transform. I also noticed that they rarely use their super attacks. Like, I use Beerus as a partner sometimes, hoping he'll do his gigantic, I don't even know what you call it, death ball meteor thing, but he never does it. Recover 3 Dragon Balls. I don't know if that means that these guys are gonna be holding them, or I gotta go off and find them, or what. Oh, okay. The keyboard drains down. Except on the AI. Well, that's handy. Somehow that seems unbalanced.
All right. I must destroy.
Okay. Let's see.
I read something other than good luck there.
Where? Oh, in the battle.
Yeah, I don't know how I got that from there, but, or how I got what I got from good luck, but I don't know. Maybe I've been reading too much Iron Sheik tweets where all
Holy
he does is
shit!
just cuss everybody out and talk about how he wants to break Justin Bieber's neck.
Really?
Yeah, his tweets will be like, "Oh, so what do you guys think? Or what movie do you think should come out, guys? Zoolander 2 or I Break Justin Bieber's Raisin Ball Neck Part 4?" And it's
Wow.
always in all caps. He almost never types in lowercase.
Oh, that's what David Draymond from Disturbed. His Twitter account is all caps locks. Only reason I know that is because they somehow like shoehorned him into the whole Gamergate situation because I don't know, he had it out with somebody about some feminist ideals or something. Oh shit.
That sounds like Doug. What happened to Doug Tennepool?
The thing is, apparently the guy is like a self-proclaimed social activist, so, I mean, they're arguing against somebody that identifies as being an ally to them, which tends to be a big problem. They always do that, but I just thought it was kind of funny. Well, the thing that I thought was hilarious about it was they started to spread this meme around where they're like, Anti-Gamergate has the Song a Day guy, and they just show him in his goofy-looking purple shirt. And then they're like, Gamergate has David fucking Draymond, and he's standing there with, like, flames behind him.
The flames just reminds me of my freshman year of high school. For like a first semester project, we had to do this asinine thing where we talked about the classes we had and we described it. And me being the disturbed and jaded 14-year-old that I was, for geometry, I think I drew a picture of Hades, and I drew a picture of Hell, and I just had this drawing of him just engulfed in the flames, just staring like if you're looking at it, he would be staring at you, but he would just be covered in flames, like as if like, oh, look at. Or like in the same way, like except there was no social cause. I just was saying that going to geometry class is like hell because
Right.
everything was right in that class. It'd be like, this is a square, so what is it again, class? A circle. Very good, class.
Wow, that sounds
Then
informative.
I took ROTC and I drew a picture of me with my hands up and some guy yelling at me. I think I had like a speech bubble and he said, "Why are you asking questions? You don't ask questions in ROTC. Now keep your hands up." That actually did well, not the hands up obviously, but somebody telling me that you don't ask questions in ROTC, that did happen.
Mm.
Because I think they were giving me a paper and I was supposed to put like personal information on there, and I'm like, "What is this for?" He's like, "You don't ask questions in ROTC."
Wow. Well, that's just a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, it's stupidity that's worth deconstructing. But unfortunately, I've already deconstructed that plenty of times. That's where that little website called Impertinent Fools even came from.
Yeah, I don't think it should ever retire because there's always going to be something.
the funny thing is, I didn't even initially start that website with the intention of doing that. It was like I started playing that was the first time I played the Japanese version of the original Final Fantasy, so I was like, oh, there aren't any websites talking about the differences between the versions in a deep and engaging manner, so let me do that. And
Oh
then
crap.
I started making like these silly profiles about some of the characters, like I said, Garland, because that was also around the time 8-Bit Theater came out,
Oh yeah, okay.
which
Oh
is
man, I can't believe I
think is
went and sorry about that. I just realized from the chat that I forgot to grab that piece of armor. I'm getting old. Yeah, I'm getting old. My mind isn't what I used to be, or it used to be. See, I can't even complete a sentence
that's
properly.
ageism.
Yeah. I
I don't
seriously
know.
though, I don't know what my problem is, but my short-term memory lately for like the past 2 years has been absolute garbage. I will carry something into a room and then I'll put it down and I'll be like, "Where the hell did I put that?"
I actually feel that way. I've felt that way today because I had a coworker, or I told my coworker about the Sarkozy thing
Yeah.
and her 5 minute speech, and I was like, but I don't remember anything she said in that speech other than the part that everybody got in a big uproar about it.
Which is stupid because that's pretty much all they say to her. Virtual machine froze, huh? That might be something you could comment on.
I've never had a virtual machine freeze on me, but like whenever I can work from home, or if I have a remote into my work computer, it just arbitrarily the remote desktop kicks me off just randomly.
Really?
It does it like if I try to go back in, it doesn't log me out, so there was no issue where I had to shut down or reboot or anything. It just decided, hey, yeah, we don't feel like having any connections, and so we're just gonna kick you out. But it'll be at the most random time, so I can just be typing. Well, I hardly ever try to use it because when I'm at work, the thing takes 5 minutes for it to go from black screen to actually showing me a browser, so I barely try to use it. But occasionally I need to pick something up off there, and half the time, like, I'll be looking through and trying to find a link or something, and then I'll go to the link on my computer here, and then I'll just hear the Windows error sound, and I come to find out that, oh, your remote desktop connection disconnected.
Oh man. Another thing that bugs me with enemies spamming stuff in this game is when they keep doing those moves where you get you're surrounding them and they keep doing that move that like it's a key ball that throws everybody off, like right there, Vegeta.
I'm trying
That
to think who else does that.
Goku does it, Cell does it,
and every fighting game has done it.
Android 17 does it, a bunch of the characters do it, and it drives me nuts. Not because they have it, I mean, it is in the series, so it's a legitimate move, but it seems like the computer overuses it. And that's, I don't know if that's something that shows my age as well, but I come from a time where we used to refer to artificial intelligence as the computer.
Yeah, and there wasn't multiplayer. It was either it was a one player or a two player game.
Yep.
Like even if you could play like we even knew Secret of Mana could handle up to 3 players, but it was still, is it a 2 player game? It's kind of like how apparently people down here say Coke when they mean soda.
Oh, okay, yeah. It's kind of just like a catch-all, though.
Yeah, because people, it's like when I lived in Louisiana, if somebody said they want a Coke, they would ask what kind of Coke you want, and they would say like Sprite. And to me, I say if I want a Sprite, I'm gonna say I want a Sprite.
Yeah, that's what makes sense to me, too. Oh, man. There was other thing that I was going to mention, and now, once again, I forgot. I'm sure it'll come back to me eventually.
Well, hopefully it's not vaginal juices and SpaghettiOs.
Oh God, that video was a nightmare. And now that, like, based on that context, anybody that doesn't know what we're going to talking about is going to think we're talking about some weird shit. But I mean, it is weird, but
Yeah,
it's not what it sounds like.
but when you realize it's a hipster that did it, they'll probably say, oh well, okay, that makes sense then.
All I can say is if that's art, I am not a fan of art.
Yeah, I haven't been to a nice museum in a while, but if this keeps up, I don't think I'll go anymore. I was actually going to complain about that because I actually should have been home a little bit earlier than I got, but I don't know if this happens in other states. I was trying to remember the last state that wasn't here that I drove in, and only one I can think of off the top, or only two off the top of my head I can think of are California and Louisiana, and I don't remember there being accidents in either of those, so I can't say whether or not this happens there. But there's this annoying trend I've noticed in Texas ever since my dad we were stuck in traffic in Austin, and my dad was yelling and calling the people stupid because that's one of his powers. And there's this thing where like if the freeway has a barrier separated median and there's an accident on the opposite side going in the other direction, the side that you're driving on, the side that doesn't have the wreck, it will back up because people apparently need to slow down and actually see it and see what's going on, like they're gonna do something.
Oh yeah, that's happened before. I've seen that. Okay, so here I finally remembered to grab the outfit. I got the Time Patroller suit. Well, that's cool at least.
Did we say sup?
I don't know. Yeah, he did. Wow, that's very Dragon Ball. Time Patrol suit. Oh, it's got a cape. That's kind of cool. Wow. Big increase for everything else. Let's see what the full thing looks like. I kind of like playing around with it. Looks kind of goofy. I feel like Aladdin or something. First live video. Good to have you. Let's see. I think I'll go back to what I was using. I'm pretty partial to the pilot suit. Oh, but I was using the top half of the 4-star Dragon Ball costume as well. Alright. So I managed to finish the main part of the game. So really all I have left to do is, like, collect the Dragon Balls and finish up these quests. I'm not sure if I can beat this one or not.
Do you know what happens when you get all the Dragon Balls?
Yeah, you get to make a wish. You can wish for money, secret characters. I'm not sure what the other options are, to be honest. But that's all I... see you later. I think we have to protect Boo.
Are you making racial slurs about Muslims there?
I guess I am. Or at least that's probably how it'll be misconstrued.
Talking about Aladdin people?
Yeah, the Time Patroller outfit I tried on that the robot gave me looked like Aladdin pants.
Or as some game reviewer said, MC Hammer's pants.
Yeah, there's that too. Okay, I don't think this battle's that tough because you have a lot of support.
It's like a community.
Yeah.
A community that doesn't believe in rape culture and misogyny and problems.
Ryan knows what stats or possibilities you get for the Dragon Balls. Yeah, I have 5 of the 7. I can't seem to collect the last 2. I was trying to do that Frieza mission where the Time Patroller shows up, but the Time Patroller just doesn't show up anymore. I guess it's just random. But it's a little frustrating playing the same mission over and over again. Got a skill. Oh, what now? Oh, he gets back up because he's taken over by the, I don't know, whatever dark magic, the demon god.
You know what I have to say about this battle? I think you used the Destructo Disc more times than Krillin ever did in the entire series.
Yeah. I think the Destructo Disc is probably one of the most underrated skills in the series, really. I mean, if it was better utilized, it could have accomplished a lot more.
Yeah, my my wife always has to make the reference of how much easier the battles would have been if he just threw a Destructo Disc right then and there.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I'm sure they would have found some way to get around it, but the way that they presented the skill was that it was pretty damn powerful, regardless of power levels.
And it is, because whenever the villains use it, boy is it ever destructive, but like nobody else even bothers to say, hey Krillin, why don't you teach me how to do that so I can use it and actually have it work.
Wow, I can't even get him to stagger. The soundtrack in this game is definitely on the weaker side.
I don't think I've really liked too many of them.
Yeah, it's not awful, but it's just not interesting. It's kind of just there.
I think the only one that was ever close to sounding good, with the exception of the Budokai ones, was Hyperdimension. Hyperdimension had some good ones, and then some that weren't good, and some that were okay.
Mm-hmm. Android 18 used the Destructo Disc too, that reminds me.
Where did she learn that? That's not canon to the series.
She used it in the World Tournament to reveal that Goten and Trunks were dressed up as that Mighty Mask or whatever.
Yeah, I think they were called Mighty Mask. Or they stole his outfit or whatever they did.
Jeez. I just keep getting thrown back.
What's up with the purple water? Did Kefka stop by or something?
I want to try to finish it with an ultimate finish, but that's probably not going to happen. Nope. That one is such... Oh, well, it still gave it to me. That's good.
That's the way. Yeah.
I don't know what determines whether I get a Z rank or not. Oobs clothes.
I don't know, but if this were Mega Man Zero, you'd have to take no damage, finish the level within 15 seconds, and
Well, the thing is that I've got Z rank on some of them, and it wasn't... I didn't feel like I did all that well. I have no idea what to do with my points anymore. Yeah, I finished her training the other day myself, actually, which is pretty funny.
well, she's like one of your favorite characters, right?
Yeah, I wanted to see what skills they would give. They did give some decent ones. I have the... Let's see. The skill that I have equipped right now... Where is it? The Deadly Dance, which is like a kick combo. That works pretty well. The Chain Destructo Disc, I'm pretty sure is from Krillin, but the one that he's talking about is the Dual Destructo Disc. I haven't used it yet. Maybe I'll try it out. What else should I do? Cover 6 Dragon Balls. I don't really like the fetch ones. Saiyan Revolt. I think I got killed in that one. Oh no, I didn't even try this one yet.
All right. Thanks for waiting.
Oh, it's like from Bardock. This was one of the things that always confused me. Like, is this considered being in outer space, or are we very high up in the atmosphere? Because as far as I know, the logic is, you know, when Frieza and Goku are fighting on Namek, the planet's going to blow up, so even if Goku could survive the explosion, he can't breathe in space. But here we are in a scene that looks like we're breathing in space.
Yeah, I think it's best not to worry about those issues.
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I just personally think about it like, oh, we're just really high up in the atmosphere, and there's air. But it happens to be pretty thin.
Because now that I think about it, I think even Hyperdimension was like that, where you would fight in space, and clearly there's only like 2 characters that could actually get away with that. Well, 3.
Mm-hmm. I think you can unlock both Brawly and Bardock as characters. I don't remember what the requirements were for it. Maybe this is one of them.
Will Brawley laugh at the power of those mosquitoes? He's a super warrior.
Z rank based on how many points you get. Yeah, I guess I could see that. It's just that I did feel like I took way too much damage to get Z rank in some of them. But I probably just misjudged. I mean, I'm sure there's rules for it. I just couldn't seem to figure out what they were. Where's the damn portal? Hello?
I like when you get responses to YouTube comments and you have no idea who they're agreeing with.
Oh, what, was it towards one of mine, or?
Yeah, it was the one, it was the...
Where the hell's the portal?
The International Women's Month or the International Women's Day one.
Oh, jeez. Was that the one guy that came in and said stuff about how there shouldn't be any? It pushes racism or something.
Yeah, I mean, he didn't say anything ridiculous. He just said, "Yeah, that's exactly what I was trying to say. I agree," but I don't know if he was
Oh,
saying he agreed with what you said or with what I said.
I bet he was probably saying it like I want to say it was towards my comment, just because I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, if that's what he was saying, he definitely worded it insanely wrong. Okay, I see the portal. Jeez, wow, that was pathetic. See you later.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming
I
in.
mean, it's nothing like the people that you have to argue with, like the guy that, what did he say? He said he wanted, quote, less niggers in Battlefield or something.
Oh, yeah. To be honest, I didn't even know what BF4 was. I was just like, what the hell is this all about? And then the best part is he flips out on me and he's like, "You need to shut the fuck up" and stuff. And then after I didn't really engage with that attitude, he's like trying to comment back all calmly.
He's like, "Oh, who cares about YouTube comments?" So clearly you, because you made them.
Yeah.
And then there was the other guy with the source that
I think
has,
I'm not
doesn't
sure if
actually
that's
facts.
yeah, I'm not sure if that's a male or female. Because they were talking about, I guess this is going to make me sound sexist because it could be taken as gender roles, but whatever. Talking about, like low self-esteem because of the way women were portrayed in video games and stuff. On a personal level. So that to me said, "Oh, maybe this is a girl." But the only thing they ever said
in video games, like how they can fly and fight against two strong characters from the Dragon Ball series.
Yeah. Oh, well, the thing that had me laughing was when they told me about representation and wanting characters to identify as, and I'm like, I played Xenoverse, and guess what? I am a female character. Does that make me trans or something? So I mean,
Apparently.
yeah, they're just going on the basis that everyone plays games the same way.
I mean, I know I don't need to have a character who looks like me to identify. How about you?
No, just I think the personality traits are probably most important, or maybe like aspects of their backstory. Say, if you lost a parent and they lost a parent, and you're like, oh, I can identify with their feelings because I know what that feels like. I think those are the kind of things that I would say that I can identify with. But even then, it's just like relating to feelings. It's not exactly where I have to have it where it's dead on.
I mean, I'm not really sure if people would really want it to where video games are a reflection of life.
Yeah. You know what happens when we get that? We get EA and their Need for Speed where you have to buy gas.
There was some racing game I played way back in the Super Nintendo era where you didn't have to do that. Oh, well, there are two games. There's one where you did have to do that, and then there was another where it was a racing game, but you couldn't drive too fast or the cops would pull you over.
Oh my god.
To this day, I don't know what that game is called, but I remember always hating it because my older brother was playing it, and I was like, why aren't you driving? He's like, oh, well, the police pulled me over and they wrote me a ticket.
Wow.
Why are you getting tickets in a racing game?
Seriously. Don't those usually take place on racetracks or, designated cities or city areas and stuff where it seems like you're able to race?
And that's the thing, because like a game we used to play before that called Top Gear, and no, it's not the stupid television, or not based off the stupid television show. It was an actual racing game where you got to drive throughout the world, and
Oh, I
it was
remember
more like
that.
yeah, it was like a traditional race where you had to pull over to your pit crew so they could refuel and all that. But yeah, you were driving. Either you were driving through the city or on an enclosed course, like San Francisco Rush and Rush 2 and Cruising USA with that uh, music that would certainly make Anita Sarkeesian foam at the mouth.
What is going on here?
Actually, I think that whole game would. She would say it's misogynistic because there's one song where it sounds like there's a girl that's in the background at some point in the song, and it sounds like she's having an orgasm or something.
Oh God.
I even found the song on YouTube and looked at the comments, and some kid said like he was playing it way back in the 90s, and his dad heard the song and told him to turn it off or turn the game off because it didn't sound right.
Wow. That's
But
pretty
even then, I
funny.
think when you win a match like this, horribly pixelated girl pops out of the screen and she does like these really jerky dances. Because I mean, this is a 64 game, and there's no motion captures here. It was just, hey,
Oh.
let's pixelate somebody and take 3 frames of animation and call that an animation. Everybody's walking dogs. I'm the only person that doesn't have one.
I actually have to do that in about an hour. Oh, come on, no super finish? I don't even know if he's the last guy or not. Didn't give me an ultimate finish.
Well, I don't have dogs to walk, but
That's the way.
does
Yeah,
crying
glad.
does crying children count as anything?
Definitely.
Probably.
Since I had a son who was crying because he was sleepy, and now he's all chipper and awake, and
Oh, I see. He quote. There we go.
he might not feel good, but boy, does he like to get up and do stuff anyway.
Oh, so that comment, yeah, I see it. Well, I guess he was talking to me just because he quoted my username in there.
Mm-hmm.
So, I
Oh
mean,
well, on the YouTube thing, it doesn't. I don't think it tells me.
oh, he definitely should have worded it better because from to me it just sounds like he's saying that he thinks that Black History Month is racist or
Well,
something.
that, but that's the thing though. Like I remember as a kid, I would have people would tell me that they would say, "Oh, I think Black History Month is racist," or "I think going to a historically black college is racist because white people aren't allowed in historically black colleges," which is false.
Right.
It's patently false.
Mm.
Like I remember, I actually thought it was really funny and ironic. My first year of college, I actually went to one, and like 90% of my teachers were white, and while the students were, well, they were like, I think they were maybe 90% black,
Mm.
but then the next highest majority, I want to say, was Asian or Vietnamese, because there's a very big Vietnamese community in New Orleans or Louisiana, and apparently in general.
Right.
And then I think after that was white. So
Well, that's
uh,
stupid. Then people are idiots. I mean, if they were gonna say like, oh, it's racism in the sense that like maybe it's I don't know, kind of exploitive. Even though I don't see that angle at all, I'm just trying to find like a justification for their reasoning. But if they're saying like, oh, because it's exclusionary to white people, that's just retarded.
yeah, I mean the problem with that is that if somebody said it was exploitative, they don't really know the history of HBCUs at all, because I mean, if you look around, the majority of them are in the southern U.S. where segregation was prominent,
Right.
and therefore they needed, or they felt they needed some some type of learning institution that could accommodate blacks because I want to say up until maybe the 60s, even in or 70s, even in universities, you were not they were still segregated. And everybody always wants to think, oh well, academia is always a progressive. People are making a big deal about that now with Gamergate. Oh well, academia doesn't treat gamers or games seriously, and therefore it's not relevant or whatever they're saying.
Right.
And so that's the way that they treat it. But I can actually think of there actually is a prominent school in the same area, Tulane University, that was an all male, all white school up until the 60s or 70s. So even after Brown versus Board of Education, they still did not allow it. There is an HBC in Houston. Well, there are a lot. Um, they're not as reputable as like the one I went to, or Morehouse, which is all male, or Spelman, which is across the street and all female, or Howard University, which is where a lot of the celebrities go, like the Wayans brothers went there, and the Claire Huxtable and her sister, they went there, and
Uh-huh.
a lot of these celebrities went to Howard. That's where I want to go for a while. They those the one in Houston. There's one in Houston though that was known for having a really good law program. But the whole reason that it even had a law program was because of segregation. Somebody wanted to apply to the flagship university in the state. Uh, they were denied admission because they were black,
Hiding some incredible power.
and I think he appealed to the Supreme Court there uh, because he said there's no alternative for him. And I think that was the only law school around at the time, or that was the only public law school maybe. And they said, well, he has a point because uh, there isn't anything else like that, but we need to practice separate but equal, or Plessy versus Ferguson, separate but equal.
Mhm.
So you guys need to rush out and create a law school that black people can go to, and that is what happened. Or that's why that school even had a prominent law program to begin with, was because of segregation. But it wasn't exclusionary. I mean, it was open to everybody. It was just that it didn't exist because at the time only University of Texas, that was the only option, and that was in Austin. And so they had to create one or they created one in Houston that black people go to. And while the school has a terrible reputation now, at the time it was actually a prominent program. But it wasn't exclusionary. It was just the only reason it existed is because of their exclusion.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess people like that probably don't want to admit things like that.
Yeah, like I was saying in the comment, I think it's asinine whenever somebody tries to do the whole white guilt thing, and I don't really even know where that's coming from. I'm tempted to say it's other white people who are trying to create the whole white guilt thing.
Yeah, I mean, outside of Tumblr, I've never really seen, I hate to say, people of color say things like that. It's only that community where I've seen that kind of thing coming from. Then again, I'm not in university now, so for God knows what's going on in there.
You know, and this could have just been because of timing and age. When I was in a position where that could have popped up, that wasn't really, you didn't hear anything like that. At best, what you did hear was Europe shaming. Like they would, if you took a class, like there was a class I took about Africa and the oil industry,
Uh huh.
and I mean it goes without saying that they demonized a lot, and not just a random European, but they did not have the highest regard for, like, Royal Dutch Shell. They don't paint in a good light at all. Chevron and Exxon aren't great either, but Royal Dutch Shell they really hit hard on because of the one, I guess, their relationship, their pre-existing relationship, and the fact that they said that Royal Dutch Shell has a history of, or they had a history of being like, good old boys that don't like anybody that doesn't look like them at all.
Right.
But I mean, part like when I hear that, there's nothing to validate that with, but they do at least make a more convincing argument by saying, "Hey, here's this guy. He was actually doing real protests, not sitting behind a computer.
Hmm.
He was what." So what happened is in one of the books, or there's a I think I remember his name. I think his name is like Ken Saro Wiwa, and I want to say he was from an area of Nigeria, I think, called the River States. Like whenever you hear like, oh, gas prices are going up because there's a strike or there's hostages in Nigeria,
Yep.
it's usually in that part of Nigeria. It's very oil dependent. Um, Given the way that kind of that country formed, it's also a different ethnic group altogether. Like Nigeria has like Yoruba, and I think they have Igbo, and I think this is the Ogoni ethnic group in the river states. And so there's already political issues there because they don't like Ogoni, and so to try to give Ogoni power, it was a bad thing to them. So what they wanted more money coming from the oil industry. They're basically saying, here we're the guys that are actually working in these refineries and in these oil fields and everything. And he was, he was trying to do things politically, but he was also trying to, he was an activist at the same time. And because Royal Dutch Shell Company was they had operations there. He also did non-violent protests, so he wasn't doing violent protests. But
Right.
basically, what they tried to argue is they tried to say that he was assassinated, essentially, or executed, and they were trying to. The book I read, I believe, and the professor I had were essentially accusing Shell of organizing it. It wasn't an execution; it was an assassination. So that was the argument they were trying to make. They were trying to say, well, yeah, they they arrested him and they tried him and found him guilty, but the only reason that they did is the only reason the Nigerian government found him guilty is because it was a military dictatorship, and so they already didn't like, though they didn't like that ethnic group as it is, and then Royal Dutch Shell certainly didn't want to surrender their control, because while they had their operations there, the way that it often worked out is that the money just went straight to them. They did say like they did improve a lot of roads, and they do what they do in a lot of cities and regions that are oil dependent.
Mhm.
They'll have all this infrastructure, but then they don't have like the empowerment to let people do anything beyond their control, and that's essentially what they were saying was happening with Royal Dutch Shell, where they said I guess they're saying companies like Chevron and Exxon at least gave some money to create infrastructure. In the case of Royal Dutch Shell, they're pretty much trying to take the money and run, and so they said it's all because he was trying to change that. He was trying to change that and trying to protect the land that he grew up in, because when you're refining oil and you're drilling oil and extracting it, it causes some environmental damage,
Yeah.
and
Plenty of that.
so he was trying to stop that, and so of course they didn't want to hear that, because whenever that happens, that's more money that they don't get back. And so that was the argument they're making, is that, yeah, a military dictatorship is the one that actually killed him, but it was all at the behest of Royal Dutch Shell trying to maintain their interests. I'm sure they even argued, I don't remember the history altogether, but I'm sure they could say, well, they placed the dictator that they wanted in Nigeria, or they gave him the power and resources to get that to that point where they know he's of this ethnic group, and they know he doesn't like that ethnic group. So if that other ethnic group tries to do something, he's going to want to suppress that because he doesn't like them. He doesn't want them getting power.
I actually did not know much about this. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I didn't think that there was a that the I guess the oil history is so deep, but I guess when you live in a or when because Houston is such a it's so oil driven itself
Yeah.
that it makes sense that that would be the place where you hear about it because they're so oil obsessed. Like for a lot of the rest of the country, when the gas prices go down, that's a good thing for people that have to pay for it at the pump.
Yeah.
Whereas in Houston, that can be a bad thing because that means their bonus money isn't going to be that high, or they might not get one. They might not get a raise. They might get laid off. And when so many people work in oil and gas in one way or another, like they've always said they try to diversify their economy to not just rely on that. But even when I was there, it still felt like that's all that went on.
The thing that bugs me when it comes to gas prices and stuff is that the prices, at least in New York, I don't know how it is in other places. The prices always go down a lot in winter, and then right as soon as the weather starts getting nicer, they shoot right back up.
Yeah, that's they'll always say it's a supply and demand issue.
Yeah.
And what else do they say? The the efforts to make it more environmentally safe, they have to put more in it for the summer months than whereas in the winter they don't do as much
Oh.
to keep it environmentally sound. That's what they say, but they say a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
I
all
gotta
based on speculation.
gotta wonder how much that actually causes the price to go up or costs. Okay, so I have two Dragon Balls. I don't know where the other one is. God knows. I kicked a guy and it went flying.
But even then, I don't think like that whole long story there about a political activist. There was a point to it. Even then, I don't think anybody's really going around saying, "Hey, you white people should feel guilty for what you're doing." I think it's more a consequence of if they're reading it. If a white, if somebody who's in that position and they're white and they're reading that,
Yeah.
they themselves might feel guilty because they say, "Oh, this is horrible." Some of them might say, "Well, I didn't even realize that this was the dynamic in Africa," and it's not surprising that they wouldn't know that.
Yeah, that's pretty much expected. I mean, unless they have either, some kind of tie to it or an interest in the culture where they're studying it.
Right. So, I mean, I don't have any expectation that they would know it, but but some people still get, they feel guilty about it, and it's like, yeah, but the problem with that is that you aren't the one who actually did that. You're not the one that ordered the assassination of a non-violent political activist just because his politics disagreed with yours.
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, eh, the only other thing is that the people that do actually, treat people that aren't involved like they're at fault is kind of silly.
Yeah, I mean, I will say the only excuse that you really ever do hear is, "Oh, well, the man is keeping you down," and not everybody is the man. Like I do remember in my first year of college, there was a guy that I knew who he just told me it didn't matter what they did, how nice they were, how they treated him.
Uh,
He didn't trust anybody who was white,
wow.
which to me didn't make sense how he could be specifically racist towards one race of people when like here he was in an interracial relationship.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. doesn't really make too much sense. But that's the thing. Like, I guess most of the people that say those outlandish things, they don't really make too much sense, and it's like they don't even realize it because they think they have the moral high ground in it.
Right, and I try to get that guy to understand, like, you can't just go around just feeling that way about everybody because not, everybody didn't do anything to you. There might be people when you actually get, we weren't really in the working world, so we didn't have to worry about that at the time. But I said there might be a point where when you're working or something like that, you do have to deal with that, and that's a real problem. But
Yeah.
just but you haven't gotten to that point yet.
Yeah, guilt by existence is pretty is a weird concept to me. Oh man, another Dragon Ball.
I mean, I think the only time I can see why somebody might feel that way, or the only time I can be sympathetic to that, and even then it's only to a specific group of people. It's when somebody tries to tell me that, oh well, we're in a post-racial society, so we don't want you to tell us about your culture and about your history because we're post-racial. So you talking about that talks about a period of racism that's not good for us, which to me was annoying for two reasons. One, I think it's false altogether. I don't know what a post-racial society even
I
means.
was just about to say, what is that?
What I think they're trying to say is, oh well, racism doesn't exist anymore, and we all treat everybody equally, which is
Oh.
the biggest lie I've ever heard. And
Yeah,
the
I
other,
mean that's. I think it,
the
like an individual can probably make that claim, but I don't think the society as a whole. Just because, well, I mean, look at earlier the comment. So, I mean, that right there is
right,
enough to show that it's there somewhere, whether or not it's prevalent. It still exists in some form.
and then the other complaint I had is that now it seems that you're being specific, like you're specifically calling out one race and no others, because I went to a school where they made a big deal about diversity. I don't feel it was diverse in even in their based on their definition. It certainly wasn't diverse based on my definition, because while people might have looked different, they all
Uh,
certainly felt the same way. They had the same opinions about everything. I mean, basically, the school I went to, high school, secondary school, whatever you call it,
uh,
was it was the precursor to what Tumblr and social justice is today.
oh God.
That's how those people acted. And so, like, they would be, everybody would have a field day when it was like, oh, let's talk about Japanese culture and history, especially that being, early 2000s when that was still in. Yeah, they wanted to hear about, oh, the different Asian cultures, and they always love to talk about the Mexico specifically. So they didn't even talk about other Latin American cultures, just Mexico. But everybody was always having a good time hearing about that. There, nobody even volunteered. I was like the only one. Nobody even wanted to talk about Black history or anything like that at all.
Right.
I tried to have a conversation about it, and they didn't seem really interested about it at all.
Which is kind of
And
ironic, given that they were so set on diversity and whatnot.
then it turned into, well, that's just the thing we don't want to hear.
The thing that always amuses me are all the different terms they come up with, like the post-racial and where do they even come up with this stuff? It's like chief diversity officer.
Yeah, I don't remember where I first saw that. Today wasn't the first day that I heard of that position. I know I've seen it before somewhere else. I just don't remember where, but I remember looking at that and I was like, what does that even mean? Because I know by the time I first heard it, I had by high school had been a distant memory by that point, so I'd been used to hearing people say, "Oh, well, we're all about diversity," and they can't even tell me what that means. It's like, oh, what we're diverse because we all look different. Well, we don't really all look different. Or do you mean it's because some of us dress one way or we dress another way? I mean, what does diversity mean? Religious diversity? There's really not that because most of the people at the school are atheists and they have no problem telling you why if you're not, you are wrong and you're part of the problem.
Yeah. Oh, here's the Brawley mission. Unfortunately, since I'm going to be doing it online, it's not going to count towards my account. I'm just going to be able to take advantage of the experience and money.
Yeah, I guess nobody really does stream on a Wednesday. Funny thing is that you've gotten more people and more conversations.
Than any of the past times, right?
Yeah, I think there might have been one other time that there were people talking, but for the most part, I think it was only this is really the first time it's happened.
Yeah. It's pretty funny. Yeah, that's actually Mai's brother. No, we're actually not playing together. We're just talking over Skype and making the conversation more interesting, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have the game, and I don't remember what I was planning on playing anyway. That's my short-term memory disintegrating.
All right, here we go. It takes a while for people to join sometimes.
Yeah, I think if they could do something to better deal with that latency, that would fix a lot of issues. But then again, knowing them, I'll hear something about, oh well, we're partnering with Amazon Web Services, and then that'll just make me want to throw up altogether.
What's the problem?
All right, here we go. So I hear he's insanely overpowered. Let's see how true that is.
It makes you want to listen to the big green dub.
The other one that was really funny was the I don't even know if it's I don't think it's the same one. It's like the Filipino dub where they speak in English, but it's like really fast.
I don't believe it's Filipino. It's Malaysian.
Oh, okay, Malaysian. That's right. Yeah. Oh, that's me and my racial ignorance or whatever you want to call it. Even though it was an honest mistake, but you know.
You know, the funny thing is, like, of all the people that I listen to, there are so few people that could just get that off the top of their head.
Oh man, what happened? Somebody else showing up? Is there a portal to go through? Oh, that over there. Okay. Didn't it? What the hell? I can't seem to go through the gate. There we go. I think there was some kind of delay.
He says his name is Bunny Fufu and he has a German username.
I don't even know what that means. The username. I think I asked him about it before, but I can't remember what the answer was.
I never could. German was the language of, surprisingly, that I had difficulty with. I just had difficulty remembering all the noun and adjective declensions and conjugations, but I want to say that the last word, vinen, I want to say is the plural for vine, which means wine.
Uh-huh.
I don't know about algin. I know D is a definite article, so the wines, something the wines.
Oh man, what is going on? I gotta try to finish it with a super. No, oh, they got the ultimate finish. Good enough. Oh, wow. You get quite a bit of experience from that.
Oh, I didn't. I I remember looking, like I was curious and seeing some of the shiny entertainment or interactive. I don't remember what they were called, but the shiny games. I was trying to see some of the other people that were involved with like Earthworm Jim and Wild Nine and MDK and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I saw Doug Tennepool, who was the artist for Earthworm Jim, and then he kind of co-created with a guy named David Perry, and I went to his Wikipedia page, and then I kind of closed out for the night, and I didn't really look at it. And I looked at another picture. When I opened it up a couple of hours ago, when I got home, I looked at the pictures, and I was like, oh, there's a guy with dark hair and this kind of weird looking beard, and he looks chunky. He kind of looks familiar. I wonder if that's. And then I see Tim Schafer on there, and I'm like, oh, well, that answers that question.
Supposedly he... I don't know what the story is, but supposedly he took in a bunch of money for something and didn't make good on the product. I don't know what it is they're talking about, but occasionally I hear people saying he's, a jerk because of that.
Uh, what I've heard them say he's a jerk for is, like he was saying that he was gonna remake Grim Fandango and a couple of his other popular games from the 90s, by the way, and he basically did lazy ports of them. Those are the complaints I've seen.
It might have something to do with that.
Now, he did work on the Monkey Island series, which I like a lot, and he did Brutal Legend, which apparently people were kind of looking at him quizzically about, because it's like, oh yeah, that's a game that's all about metal, and that's the least, or that's one of the things you could never say isn't misogynistic in lyrics and things like that. And he's just like, oh, I don't know what he said, some dumb about misogyny, but it's like,
I'm sure he came equipped with an excuse.
I don't think he's even addressed it at all.
Oh, well, that figures then.
But yeah, what I saw a lot of people complaining about was that, he's basically just cashing in on games that he already made that were popular. He's not making any new IPs.
Square Enix?
Basically. I mean, the last kind of things I heard was like Psychonauts and Brutal Legend, and I kind of heard that like he wasn't working on stuff for a while, if I remember correctly, and I think I remember, like, the game companies weren't treating him with respect or anything, or they didn't really care about his projects that much anymore, and so he was kind of getting the shaft on everything. And so I was like, oh, that's kind of sad, because it looks like he's doing actually interesting work, but now it seems like all he's doing is ports. Even though his Wikipedia page says he looks like he's working on new IPs, it doesn't really look like he's
Yeah, well, Wikipedia has been quite the disingenuous source lately.
Right, so you can only take that with a grain of salt anyway.
All right, well, at this point, I actually have to call it quits for now, just because I gotta walk the dogs, and then Mai's coming home from her class, so I gotta put dinner on, which is funny given my misogyny.
Right, and I guess at least Lacey Green would be happy with that arrangement.
Yeah, but I might be able to come back a little bit later. I don't know if you have any time, but I might be able to do some stuff later.
Yeah, I'll have some time later. I think I should be eating pretty soon, so that should work for me when I'm done.
All right, so thanks to anybody that stopped by, and we will most likely be back later. If not later, then sometime soon.
Have a good one, everyone.
Take it easy.